welcome to the Late and Cassette Podcast. Today we'll be covering Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is based off of a popular video game franchise of the same name, the first of which was released by the now defunct Midway Games in 1992. Only 4 people were involved in the early stages of development: Ed Boon, programming; John Tobias, art and story; John Vogel, graphics; and Dan Forden, sound design. Originally, the game was pitched to Jean-Claude Van Damme, but the deal ended up falling through, and the Johnny Cage character ended up becoming a spoof of Van Damme. Van Damme was also offered the role of Johnny Cage, but declined to take part in it to make Street Fighter. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to my cousin TK so we can learn a little bit more about the Mortal Kombat lore.
I'm glad you had me on today, Mark. It's really exciting. 27 years. Mortal Kombat's been around since 1992. Mortal Kombat 11 just came out in April. It pays a lot of homage to a lot of the old titles, and including the movie. So it's really exciting to see where it's going, but more importantly, it's nice to see where it's been. So in order to see more about the lore, let's understand some of this, understand some more of where it's been. So we're going to go to the source material. 1992, Mortal Kombat hits the arcades, and it's an instant hit. More machines are eating quarters left and right. Soccer Mom Judy gives little Johnny Dickhead $1 so he can go play his favorite games. Of course, he picks Mortal Kombat. Soccer Mom Judy looks on in horror as she sees blood flying out of people, and Johnny picks the blue ninja, and he just rips the head off of the half Terminator face guy. What the shit just happened? Soccer Mom Judy just had her mind blown halfway across the arcade, so she does what every crazy white woman does in this situation. She writes a letter to her congressman. So now, this game in particularly, it may be the entire reason why the ESRB exists today. ESRB is the Entertainment Software Rating Board. That's where you see your E for everyone or M for mature in the lower corner of your video games. And it brings a lot of attention because they're calling this game trash, an abomination, and it's gaining steam. Mortal Kombat, violent video game. What have I been missing out on? 1993 rolls in. Mortal Kombat 2 comes out. It's got a bigger roster, more blood, guts, gore, bones than the first game by far, and it's gaining a lot of steam at this point. It's a great game for everybody. 1995 rolls around, and it's a big year for Mortal Kombat fans. We have April rolling around. Mortal Kombat 3 is out in arcades. In August, we have the movie, of course. And then November rolls out Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which fixed a little bit on Mortal Kombat 3, added a couple characters, maybe a couple new elements to the game. But we're going to rewind a little bit, and we're going to go specifically to the movie.
All right. Yes, and Mortal Kombat stars Christopher Lambert as Raiden, Robin Shou as Liu Kang, Harry Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung, Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage. Now, Brandon Lee was originally the first choice for Johnny Cage, but he tragically died on the set of the movie Crow. Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade. Cameron Diaz was originally cast, but broke her wrist before filming began. And Talisa Soto as Princess Katana. And that's our main cast of heroes and villains. The movie was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who would later go on to make the Resident Evil movies, and it was produced by Lawrence Kasanoff. Filming began in August 1994 and went through December. The Outworld exterior scenes were shot at an abandoned steel mill in Fontana, California. All Goro scenes were filmed in LA. They also filmed some in Thailand. Mortal Kombat opened August 18, 1995, and finished at number 1 at the box office, making $23.2 million its opening weekend. It stayed at number 1 for another 3 weeks, and it would ultimately make $122.1 million against an $18 million budget. Pretty substantial hit. Pretty substantial. That was also the summer that gave us Batman Returns and other popular movies, so it didn't do too bad.
I remember I was really hyped with this for what it is. I know it didn't age well. I mean, we can make fun of what it is now, but for 1995, this movie was fucking big. It was bigger than big. It was what everybody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And as we get into the movie here, before the movie starts, we get someone shouting Mortal Kombat, and a sick ass theme song plays as we see the new line and then the Mortal Kombat logos. We get a slow motion fight that ends with the victor staring down the camera saying, "Your brother's soul is mine and yours will be next." Then Liu Kang wakes up from his nightmare in the greenest room you will ever see. Liu Kang then walks over to a dresser and picks up a telegraph, and this is a direct quote: "Brother dead, return home, grandfather." What the fuck? Did they want to get broken English dialect on paper for? Comedy gag, I guess? We go to Hong Kong, where Sonia is trying to find Kano, an Australian crime boss who joined forces with Shang Tsung, who instructs Kano to get her to follow him onto a boat. Kano slips out while Sonia searches for him, trying to get information from one of his henchmen who she just shot to hell.
Bloody mess. This guy is bleeding internally, and Sonya's just gripping him up like, "Where's Kano? Where's Kano?" Just, just beating the shit out of this guy. And you can tell Shang Tsung does not like Kano from the very beginning. Just the way they interact, the way he looks at him, you can tell that Shang Tsung hates Kano. But it's interesting because Kano's talking with an Australian accent. In the manuals to the original Mortal Kombat game, it explains that Kano is American. He's an orphaned American. I guess he was left in Tokyo, if I remember it correctly. It doesn't specifically say he's Australian, but I do like the accent, even though, from what I understand, the actor that played Kano is British.
Oh, really?
And he does kind of I would imagine he does in a good Australian accent. I don't know down under if they would say the same thing, but it sold me.
Yeah, I never even, gave it a second thought. When he started speaking. Like, oh, okay.
And later portrays in other games, they kind of stick with the Australian accent in a lot of the old Mortal Kombat titles. So I'd say it's pivotal. I'd say that the movie inspired Kano to be Australian from that point forward.
Well, that's interesting because we do see movies sometimes that, from source material, whether it be a Batman or Mortal Kombat or whatever. Sometimes they do change the source material a little bit, especially if the movie or TV show is popular.
This is true.
But we then go to Hollywood and see Johnny Cage generally acting like a dickhead. Johnny gets a visit. He's on the set of a movie. Johnny gets a visit from a man who he thinks is his former sensei, who invites him to a tournament. But after the man leaves, it's revealed to be a shape-shifting Shang Tsung. Now, Johnny is worried about being fake, like actors aren't fake. He could have never cut it being a professional wrestler, being called a fake. But at the Temple of Light, Liu discusses his brother's death with his grandfather. Liu declares he wants in the tournament, and Raiden appears and scolds Liu Kang for running away from his destiny. Liu Kang only wants in the tournament for revenge. Now, at the dock to meet the boat in Hong Kong, Johnny brings an obscene amount of luggage, and he mistakes Liu Kang for a dock worker, and then Liu Kang throws one of his suitcases in the water. I guess just because they were in Hong Kong, he saw an Asian guy walking towards him. He assumed he was a part of the crew.
You can tell this is Hollywood elitism at its best. Like, we're on our way to Hong Kong. Oh, here comes a Chinese guy. Let me give him his bags because obviously he works here. Racist as shit, Johnny.
Right. That is for sure. I don't think a scene like that would play well in today's day and age. Maybe.
No, it might get called out, but like, this is an insensitive part of this movie. We must ban it.
Yeah, like people 20 years later talking about the way the Power Rangers are colored and, that whole deal.
Soccer mom Judy again writing another letter to her congressman.
Yep. But the ship arrives and they all board except for Sonya, who runs on after she sees Kano. She goes searching for Kano below deck and she comes across Shang Tsung. Johnny and Liu join her and tell him to back off. He then has Sub-Zero and Scorpion enter with some shitty CGI coming out of Scorpion's hand.
I don't know what's up with that demonic bird face. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, It doesn't look good.
It really doesn't look good, but I will say, whenever Scorpion and Sub-Zero do enter from that door, the first time that you see them, God, how old was I when this movie came out? Like 9. I was 9 years old, seeing Scorpion and Sub-Zero for the first time. It is amazing. When the music kicks in, finally, the ninjas are here. And it's cool because it gives a little bit of backstory. Shang Tsung says Scorpion and Sub-Zero, deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power. Cool. It explains why they're fighting next to each other. Very powerful moment in the movie.
Oh, definitely. And it is very cool to see them on the big screen instead of, just on your, well, I guess if you have a big screen to play video games on, but to see them in a live action movie.
Definitely.
Raiden then shows up and tells them to back off, and they all adjust pretty well to this new supernatural phenomenon. I mean, Liu Kang knew about it, but Sonya and Johnny, they're just like, whatever. They just rolled it.
Yeah, I just had my gun frozen. I just seen this guy with a bird face coming out of his hand, and now this guy's shooting lightning out of his ass. Like, whoa. Okay, this is normal. Okay, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, definitely not the best actors, that's for sure. Or script. I mean, you could go with either one, but
yeah, I can go with that. I mean, they were there for their martial. Maybe not Bridget Wilson as much, but Johnny and Liu Kang, they were there for their martial arts for sure.
Yeah, Bridget Wilson was just trying to get that big payday with Adam Sandler the next year. Raiden then tells the trio the rules of Mortal Kombat. Now, this is the 10th tournament, and if the Warriors from Outworld win, they can invade Earth. It's a very important plot point. That's the whole plot of the movie. But I do have a bit of a bitch about it later, so.
I'm generally confused about what happens during this because I remember whenever Scorpion and Sub-Zero were just dealt with, Shang Tsung explains that this place is out of Raiden's domain. I don't necessarily understand that because they're still in Earthrealm. Raiden is the protector of Earthrealm, so why does he not have power there, and why is he not in the tournament as a fighter? Maybe it's because Christopher Lambert can't actually do martial arts, or maybe he can. I don't know, but he's not a fighter and he doesn't have power. Neither one of those are explained.
What he does is have long gray hair and talk like this the entire time.
And he talks like this, the menacing Christopher Lambert.
But he's our mentor, I guess you could say, for our heroes. But they do arrive at an island. Do you know where this island is? Because I didn't quite catch it.
You know what? I don't remember. I thought it was somewhere in Hong Kong, but then I don't know. They just go off into the mist, and then they just magically, shit happens at night. There's fireworks and little skulls and Shao Kahn's face in the sky. I don't know where the hell
they're
they are.
Somewhere. They're wherever the tournament's taking place.
It's Shang Tsung's island, but it never specifies where Shang Tsung's island is. I imagine it's somewhere in Earthrealm where he can have his portals to Outworld wherever he needs it, but I don't believe it explains where they're actually at.
Right. But they arrive. Sonya can't reach her squad. She's still trying on her radio. And Johnny keeps carrying his luggage. He face plants into the water, which is a pretty... He grabs all his suitcases and he goes to step off the boat, and he just falls face first right into the water. Pretty funny. And then Shang Tsung instructs a CGI creature, Reptile, to keep Princess Katana away from the humans after she shares a look with Liu Kang. Princess Katana, don't read anything into the name. She does not use a katana sword.
Yeah, I never understood the name Katana, especially since she uses fans. I mean, it's really stuck today, but that Reptile CGI, Jesus Christ. I mean, I understand it's 1995, but man, did that not age very well.
No, I mean, CGI from Terminator 2 and 91 still looks good, but not this.
Not Reptile, no.
No. We go to a feast, and we see Sub-Zero score a flawless victory after freezing his opponent and smashing him. Afterwards, the three follow Shang Tsung, and they come across Kano talking to the defending Mortal Kombat champion, Goro. Shang Tsung appears and wants Kano to fight Sonya to humiliate her. Shang Tsung makes it clear he wants Princess Kitana kept away from Liu Kang.
I don't necessarily understand this scene as well. It gets a little bit of the lore confused. It says Liu Kang is a descendant of Kung Lao, who was the reigning Mortal Kombat champion up until when Goro was introduced, and then Goro killed Kung Lao. But Liu Kang is not a descendant of Kung Lao. Kung Lao is a descendant of Kung Lao. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are, I guess you can say, brothers in arms because they're part of the White Lotus Society. But Liu Kang is not a descendant of Kung Lao.
Okay. So did they just rewrite the mythology then, I guess, for the movie?
I guess, yeah, just taking privileges just because they didn't write Kung Lao into the story and they wanted to have Liu Kang have more hype than what he did. But, yeah, they got that part incorrect.
But after the three make a little noise, accidentally, they then flee but get lost in some tunnels after they lose their way. After ending up in a throne room, some henchmen appear and we get that song, the Mortal Kombat theme from the beginning, and the three kick some ass.
Major ass. It's a great scene in the movie. Just that fight scene, the song kicks in, it's action packed. This is what you came for.
It does get the adrenaline going. And then they defeat all the ninjas, and then some more show up, but Raiden scares them off when he appears on the steps. Raiden says Sung is dangerous because he is a former champion and he absolves his opponent's souls. And he is extra dangerous because of this. Essentially, if he has 1,000 souls, he has 1,000 warriors and that type of thing, basically.
I want to rewind a little bit whenever Raiden saves them from the onslaught of more people coming. This goes back to my question of why doesn't Raiden have power here when he clearly has power here?
I don't know.
They say it's out of his dominion, but yet he's about to shoot sparks out of his finger and his eyes glow. That's portraying some power. Yet again, he's not a combatant in Mortal Kombat, and he is said to have no power. So a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, maybe just a vow he's taken. Who knows?
Unwritten vow of not to fight in the tournament. I don't know.
You know what? It's because if he'd fight, then he would essentially he could just end it all. Him and Shang Tsung. So maybe I don't know. It doesn't make much sense.
No, that part is still a little confusing.
Now, Liu Kang is a participant in the first fight in the next morning, which he wins with very little trouble. Then Sung takes the loser's soul. Next up, Sonya takes on Kano. Sonya is fighting in black combat boots, black Daisy Dukes, and a black wife beater.
I know, worst costume design ever. Not good. Not a good choice. It's also a hard fight to watch too because I don't know if Bridget Wilson has a lot of fighting experience, but the fight is very, very short, and it's just a series of kicks and a couple punches. There's not real martial arts going on here or fighting at all, really.
No. The fight, it was what it was, but I wasn't too upset about the outfit until I saw the boots because I just hate the boots with shorts look. I think it was fucking stupid.
I totally agree with you. The only thing that's just as bad is tennis shoes, tube socks, and shorts. I hate that. That looks ridiculous.
Yeah, so awful. But Sonya does win, and she breaks Kano's neck while she has him in a ankle scissor-like thing.
Which is a move from the game. She would lock you around it, but it was around your waist. I don't believe it was around your head. It was a move from the game, so I will give them for trying that. But yeah, the entire fight in itself, you skip it.
Yeah. Next up, Scorpion intends to welcome Johnny Cage to the jungle by having the CG flower come out of his hand and having it chase Johnny. Johnny goes to kick Scorpion, but then they transport to a dungeon, and we get some knockoff new metal guitar during the fight. Maybe I guess pre-new metal guitar. Well, Anyway, Scorpion eventually takes off his mask to reveal his head is just a skull. And then Johnny hacks him to shit with a shield he found in the dungeon, and Scorpion explodes.
This is the only time you actually see anything resembling the game as far as blood flying out of the body. And I wonder if they did this just to Scorpion, because technically with his mask off, he's no longer human. So they can kind of get away with some stuff that they do here. But that's the only time you ever see blood squirting out of the body, like in the video games.
Well, that's true. I mean, even if you equate it to like modern day movies today, like Justice League, they have them killing parademons. They're just nameless, faceless creatures, you know. They're not humans, so.
And it's what's really nice about this particular fight is it does a lot of head tilts towards Mortal Kombat 2. This is, I forgot to mention it before, this is probably the second location where they actually use something that's in the game. When they're in the forest, Mortal Kombat 2, it has what's called the living forest, where the trees are alive. You can see their face, and they're constantly making movements. But also before, whenever they're Johnny, Liu Kang, and Sonya, when they're going after Shang Tsung, trying to find him, they go across the bridge, and to me, that would be the pit level.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But one thing I will point out about this is Scorpion, when his little bird flower thing comes out of his hand, if you look real closely, whenever he extends his arm forward, you see that the harpoon actually isn't coming out of his hand. It looks like it's coming out of his sleeve or his chest. And then once it gets tangled around the tree and doesn't get Johnny just right there in his face, you can see that the harpoon is supposed to be coming out of his hand, but it does it twice whenever he shoots the harpoon out. It actually doesn't come out of his hand. It looks like it's coming out of his sleeve. So kind of junky special effects work there.
For sure. I mean, this movie, as far as special effects go, is definitely 1995.
Yeah, it definitely shows its era. But also, at the end of the fight, whenever Scorpion explodes, another Mortal Kombat 2 reference, Johnny throws down a picture of himself signed. That was a friendship in Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, I did like that. I did like how it, you know, the picture of him did fall, or he threw it down, I guess, and it, you know, to my biggest fan.
A lot of head tilts. I like the even if it's just little moments like that, it still pays homage to the games. It still stays
definitely. True. It's always great when you can get that out of your movie and they don't try to whitewash everything. Next up, Liu Kang fights Sub-Zero in a temple. Sub-Zero attempts to keep a force field of ice around him, but Liu, after seeing Kitana and her silently speaking to him to use the force that creates life or some shit, throws a bucket of water at Sub-Zero that turns into a giant fucking icicle and stabs him right through the gut, killing him.
Use the force, Liu. Use the force. No, I don't understand this part either. What the hell was Sub-Zero doing? Like, what's with the giant snow globe?
I have no idea. And then the way he was doing with his hands, it looks like he was going to give us a pre-DX crotch chop.
Draw attention to the deck. But like, was he supposed? I don't know. I don't understand the snow globe. Was it supposed to freeze the room? Was he supposed to isolate himself away from Liu Kang? Would the globe eventually grow and consume Liu Kang? I don't know. It's
I think it
weird.
was to keep Liu Kang away at first, because if you notice, he like bumps into it or brushes up against. He's like, "Oh, cold."
Yeah, it is true. I wish more would have elaborated on that, because I don't know what Sub-Zero's end game was for that.
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't think he even knew.
He didn't. That's why he died.
Yeah. The next day, Sung unleashes Goro on the tournament, and he destroys everybody he faces. The trio consult with Raiden, who tells them there is always a way, and tells the three to face their fears. Johnny's fears being a fake, Sonya's is asking for help, and Liu Kang's is accepting his destiny like all heroes. Johnny tells Sonya he has a plan. Then Johnny goes and tells Sung he challenges Goro. Sung accepts, but says he wants to challenge anyone of his choosing after the fight. As soon as the fight is starting, Johnny Cage becomes Johnny Split and punches Goro right in the dick.
Funniest shot ever. That dick punch. Oh my god, so much funny shit happens in such a 2-minute period. It is hilarious. That is awesome. I know. It was so awesome, but so unexpected. And I want to take a step back again, because it's interesting. I don't know when it takes place for sure. It does in the new timeline for Mortal Kombat games very early on, but it shows Johnny being protective of Sonya, and Sonya and Johnny later in different games become love interests. They end up having a kid, Cassie Cage. But I don't know if it ever took place in the game or not. So this also might be something else from the movie that takes place in the game later on as love interest, because I don't think it ever happened early in the games. Maybe this was just a privilege taken from the movie and they built
very
on
well
it.
Could be, because you got to have the love interest in the movie. You get Kang and Katana. So it very easily could be. Johnny does run away from Goro, though, who runs after him, and they end up on a cliff where Johnny kicks Goro. Goro falls, and Johnny looks at him while he's hanging on, says, "This is the part where you fall," and then Goro falls to his death.
These are $500 sunglasses, asshole. Yeah. Best line. Iconic. I love it.
Keep that in mind about the sunglasses. I did forget to mention it, but that's kind of important in Annihilation. Not important, but it's kind of a what the fuck moment. Sung grabs Sonya and challenges her to a final match of the tournament in Final Combat. Johnny and Liu follow Sung and Sonya to Outworld. Raiden can't go because of reasons. Do you want to?
That I will say, Raiden has always said that he was weak in Outworld. That I will defend. But where they're at on the island, that I can't defend. I don't know why he's powerless there, but apparently he's powerless there. He's powerless in Outworld. Like,
or weaker in Outworld than he is at the island?
Yeah, so much to the point where I don't think he can even do any of his powers in Outworld, period. Which really raises the question for me in Annihilation, but we'll get to that.
Well, our heroes always have to go and face their fears. You know, they have to go do it. Can't have daddy or older brother walking them along. But
and Outworld actually is something that doesn't take place until Mortal Kombat 2. Another head nod towards a different game. In part 1, they basically stay in Earthrealm. They fight Mortal Kombat in Earthrealm, and then in Mortal Kombat 2, they branch off into Outworld.
Okay, well, yeah, that definitely is cool that they incorporated, parts of the second movie or parts of the second game into the movie. They go into Outworld, and they are followed by a terrible CGI reptile who takes human form after Liu Kang throws it in a statue or a skeleton. And I would say this is by far the best fight of the movie.
I have to agree with you. That whole... whenever I first seen Reptile, I was like, oh, man, they're not going to have Reptile the human in the movie. They're just going to have this CGI bullshit. And then you hear the commentator come on, Reptile. And he gets his human form and kicks the living dog shit out of Liu Kang through a wall. And then this awesome fucking techno electronic beat comes on. And you're like, oh, shit, it gets you hype immediately.
Oh, for sure. It is. It's an awesome fight. It's definitely the best fight of the movie. But
Reptile was given the business for a good while, and then Liu Kang, he's the hero. He's got to whoop that ass.
For sure. He definitely does. Kind of with all the, the yellow Scorpion and the blue Sub-Zero and the green Reptile, kind of reminded me of Power Rangers there for a minute almost.
Oh, that's a good point.
In the next movie.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started.
Kang beats him and kills Reptile. When in reptile form it goes to leave the body, Kang just smushes it.
He just curb stomped that bitch right out of his little statuesque uniform.
Right, Katana shows up and gives us some backstory. Her father was ruler of Outworld, and they lost 10 tournaments, and her parents were killed, and the Emperor adopted her so he could lay claim to the throne. He says in the final combat, Kang will have to face 3 things: himself, the enemy, and his worst fear. We see Sonya chained up in a tower, and she traded her black tactical outfit for a medieval princess porno cosplay outfit.
I swear this is all by Shang Tsung's design, because you can tell, even whenever his first interaction with Kano at the beginning of the movie, what the hell is up with Shang Tsung's interest in Sonya?
I
Like
once put
I don't
in
I don't
something,
know. Yeah, he wants to put his song into some Sonya, but it's just weird and creepy, and it even portrays whenever she's chained up in her BDSM outfit.
yeah. I mean, it's basically Slave Leia from Return of the Jedi, kind of.
For sure.
She refuses to fight Sung, needless to say. But Liu Kang arrives and challenges Sung to final combat after he, Cage, and Katana reveal themselves disguised as monks. I guess monks are, what else do you call them? Is that what they were, monks?
Monks, henchmen, guards.
Druids,
They
maybe.
pretty much. That could be.
Yeah.
I will say the Shang Tsung and the Liu Kang fight, that beginning part where the music kicks in and they just start rumbling. Another chilling moment, like goosebump moment. Holy shit, this is some good fighting. Again, this is what I came to see.
But we do cue that kick-ass theme song, and the fight starts. Sung channels some of the souls he's acquired over the years, acquired in air quotes. And Kang beats them easily. Sung then takes the form of Kang's younger brother and tries to trick Liu Kang, but Liu isn't falling for that shit, and they fight some more. A few souls escape, weakening Sung, and Kang beats his ass until Sung falls on a bed of spikes below, killing him. All the souls then escape. Kang's brother appears and tells his older brother that he is proud of him before he essentially moves on. The 3 plus Katana reunite with Raiden at a celebration the next day, when suddenly the Emperor appears and demands their souls. The 5 take a fighting pose, and the theme song starts back up as the credits roll.
Not a bad ending. Like I said, best interpretation of a video game movie. You like Rampage. I haven't seen Rampage personally, but I'm still sticking with Mortal Kombat. I think it's a really good interpretation of a game. And what a great way to end it too, with the promise of something better to come as a sequel.
Yeah, definitely. The promise of something better.
Yeah, we all know, any of us who's ever seen the second movie, that is not what we got. We got, oh god, did we get a train wreck?
Now the positives for this movie I got is it's a fun tone, the fights were pretty good, all pretty good, and the theme song.
Obviously, the theme song. I mean, people were playing this in, like, I remember going to roller skating rinks and this was playing on the loudspeakers. Like it was everywhere.
I listened to, I'll plug a podcast here real quick. I listen to Tony Schiavone, a former wrestling commentator, his podcast, and every once in a while he'll just scream Mortal Kombat and do the dun 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 dun.
It still holds up. That's the only. I will say one thing: if you don't like the movie, you got to at least say the theme song holds up after what? How many years? Almost 25 years.
And, hey, it has almost 100 million listens. I think 88 or 89 million listens on YouTube. So, people like it.
I have the soundtrack actually for that movie, and every character has a techno electric song to it. Some of them are, most of them are a little bullshit, but that theme song and the remix of the theme song are still kick-ass 25 years later.
They are. I'm not as big on the remix just because I'm not generally a fan of remixes. Sometimes, but I like the old shit. The negatives I got, the CGI looks bad by today's standards. They keep throwing in new rules throughout the movie or things you didn't know. Or, I guess they got to keep you in the whole time. But the biggest negative for me is PG-13.
It is PG-13. I will say that for a Mortal Kombat movie, you definitely want blood, you want guts, you want insane stabbing motions that kill people, and you want fatalities, you want brutalities. But I will say one thing. Mortal Kombat, the first game, was actually rated MA-13, which the ratings at the time were, I believe, KA, kids to adults. It was MA-13, mature audiences 13 or older. And then there was MA-17, which by my standards would be KA would be E for everybody. MA-13 would be T for teen. and MA-17 would be M for mature. So I will say the first game was actually rated teen as well.
Yeah, and it definitely, there's a lot of implied violence, and I hate that in horror movies. I hate PG-13 horror movies, but I can, kind of forgive it for this movie. There's a lot of implied, and they want the kids, they knew who played the game. It wasn't, it wasn't adults that played it. It was kids, late, teens, early 20s. I remember playing Mortal Kombat in like 94, and I would have been 5, so.
Yeah, they knew their target audience. They knew they wanted the kids in the theaters, and putting an R rating on that movie would have flopped hard.
So I can definitely get why they did it.
But there's word of remakes, so we've seen how R movies do nowadays, so hopefully they take a little bit of interest and be like, hey, we can rate this movie R, and we can give it all we got.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look what they did with Logan, the X-Men movie.
Even Deadpool was rated R, and it wasn't what I was expecting, but wow, did it really wow.
Yeah, they can definitely get away with it, and look, I watched R movies when I was younger. I don't know if I was necessarily allowed to, but I did. I mean, I think the first time I saw any of like the Halloween movies, I was 9 years old. So I mean, kids are gonna watch them regardless.
Yeah, especially if it's on TV. Like, it might be edited for TV, but it's still an R-rated movie, so everything that you would expect in an R-rated movie is generally still going to be there. We're going to watch it if it's on there.
Yeah, exactly. Kids will always find a way,
Especially with the internet. I mean, we didn't have that shit back in the day. Mortal Kombat fatalities, brutalities, babalities, it was like the best kept secret. How do you do these? We didn't have the internet. We couldn't just go on and, Mortal Kombat. How do you do Liu Kang's brutality? We didn't have that shit. We had word of mouth. We had, recess get-togethers. Hey, Aiden's fatality. Oh, how do you do it? That was our time. So kids nowadays, they don't even have to worry about watching an edited R-rated movie. You can seriously go anywhere and probably download it or even watch it on YouTube with mommy's credit card.
Yeah, well, you might not want her to see that on the charge on the bill, but...
Yeah, just blame it on your dad.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, get her off your back. This movie is it's not perfect, but it's a fun movie. I give it a thumbs up. I think I know where you stand. What do you give it? Thumbs up? Thumbs?
Oh, definitely a thumbs up from me all the way.
It's definitely of its time, but that's okay. It's definitely okay. And I will say that the CGI in this, it's better than some of the CGI like in other movies of the era. But recently I watched within the last couple of years when the new Power Rangers movie came out, I went back and I got I bought it on DVD. I think it was FYE, so it was only $5. The original Power Rangers movie from '95, and the CG in that, yikes.
Really? That bad? I haven't revisited that movie in a long time.
It's not awful until you get to the end when Ivan Ooze is controlling those fucking beetle things, and then it's just
oof. That's a story for another time,
we're
I guess.
talking about Mortal Kombat. But you're going to join me when we cover Annihilation.
Yes, next week we should be doing Annihilation. Let's get to this shit fest.
Right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for today.
Well, Mark, thanks for having me. Mortal Kombat the movie, one of my favorites. If you haven't seen it, go out and watch it.
Oh, and this is at the end, but spoilers. So, yeah, I said spoilers.
What's that? Yeah.
They should, you should assume that if you listen to this podcast, it's all spoilers.
Pretty much. Maybe we should do the disclaimer at the beginning.
But all right, thank you for joining me, TK. And next week we will cover Mortal Kombat Annihilation.